working, how elaborate they can be. This one is 6 by 12. So I'm going to go ahead and start working my pieces, and I like to work with coils quite a bit when I'm working on a project like this. Just make sure that all the images that they put on here are nice and flat onto the canvas itself. So I'm going to start working some of my shapes on there, and I'm going to work on some coils first. So they also get to learn what a coil looks like, and they get to manipulate it in different ways. I like to do a little butterfly with this one. I'll do one wing first on one side. And then I'm going to do another wing on the other side. Put them together. And maybe a little dot for the head. And there you have a nice little butterfly that they can use for their project. Now, before they actually put their images on here, because they will come off, they actually need some glue. And I'm going to just go ahead and lay out a whole bunch of glue in here so that my images can get stuck really well once I start to glue them onto my canvas. Okay, so just decide where you want that butterfly to be, and you just go on from there. You start adding a whole bunch of little shapes. We can use our tools to shape them. We can use our nails. We can use other types of tools that you may have around the classroom. So just depends on what it is that you have accessible, or if you have something else that you can think of to use rather than these actual tools, you can use those. So I'm going to go ahead and start shaping some more pieces here. But just keep in mind that these need to be flat on the actual canvas, not so high up where it's going to fall off when it dries, or it's going to crack very easily. So everything needs to be nicely placed onto the canvas. Now when I'm just about finished with everything and I've already added all my basic shapes, or my main shapes, I can go ahead and just cover up the smaller spaces with a whole bunch of little dots. This is going to help me have a better relief in the end, and it'll just create more visual texture on there with all those little dots. I also want to keep my shapes nice and big and simple, so try not to add too much little detail going on there, so that everything's nice and simplified just like that. do is I'm going to go ahead and just apply an undercoat and just create this nice wash effect over it. And of course, once we're finished with that, we can always add some more paint and have this beautiful effect with the metallic paints. You can also use regular paints for that. I like the watercolor metallic paints, but if you don't have that, then any watercolor set will work for you. So that's what we're going to do first, just apply the undercoat, and for that I'm going to be using some acrylic paint. You can use any color. I'm going to be using green, and you're also going to need some water for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of that green on there, and just make sure to get into the gaps really well, especially with the water. We'll get into all those gaps. It's hard to get in there at times, but the water will help you spread it out very nicely. You have to really kind of, a stiff brush works very well for this, but it might also kind of push out your pieces of clay. Just don't put too much pressure on it as you guys are painting. So see, because if you just do one solid coat over the surface, then it doesn't get into the gaps in between. So that's basically what I'm going to do next, is try to get into all the little gaps in there and cover the whole entire surface as best as possible, and in between the gaps as well. Now, before my paint dries out though, I want to start removing some of the excess amount on the surface, because that's the part where I'm going to be painting next. Unless you just want to leave it like this, I think it creates a nice effect as well. So this is what it's going to end up looking like. Okay, so I'm going to do that for the rest of my project here, my relief, so that then we can move on to the next step and paint it. To paint the surface, and you can use multiple colors for that, as I did on this particular piece here. Now, I like to use the metallic watercolors, but this depends on what it is that you have available. And I've added some water on there prior to actually starting my painting process, just so that the colors can get moist. And I'm going to go ahead and just start adding some color on the surface. And as you can see, it looks nice and shimmery and glossy. So just also depends on how thick you want it, how thick you want the paint to be. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do throughout my whole entire next step. I'll go ahead and paint it in. If the color seems to be too watery, you can always remove some of that water from the surface so that it can absorb the color better on the actual clay, or it can actually stick on there better. So yeah, that's much better, as you guys can see. You want the colors to be nice and rich on the surface there. I really like that nice contrast that it gives right there. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing that just throughout the whole entire painting. And add another coating of that nice orange color. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do that all throughout my piece here. Ends up looking like this here, and you can always add a coating of the Mod Podge. I like to have a clear gloss on it so that it brings out the colors a little bit better. So you can do the Mod Podge coating until this is completely dry, and I usually use a gloss Mod Podge, so make sure you guys if you're going to do a coating of Mod Podge, you want to have that nice glossy effect that will bring out the shine on these colors here. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, apply a coating of the Mod Podge, and then we're ready to frame this or display it on a mini easel, however you guys want to display it. So this is a great project that you can try out with your students. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.